Start right there. Stock futures are falling once again this morning despite an historic rally yesterday sparked by a pause on most of the president's tariffs. A baseline 10% tariff on all trade partners remains in effect this morning, while China's tariffs are now at 125%. Here's how everything played out yesterday. Around 9:30 a.m. Eastern, the president posted on social media that everyone should be cool and that it was a great time to buy stocks. Then at around 1:15 in the afternoon, President Trump officially reversed course, posting on social media there would be a 90-day pause. That decision sent the markets soaring. The S&P 500 added more than 9%, its third largest gain in a single day since World War II, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq had its biggest one-day gain since January of 2001 and its second-best day on record. At the White House, the president was asked what led to this reversal.
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know, they were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions, because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents, they wouldn't have done it. And it had to be done.
Was it the bond markets that persuaded you to reverse course?
I was watching the bond market. The bond market is very tricky. I was watching it, but if you look at it now, it's beautiful. The bond market right now is beautiful. But yeah, I saw last night where people were getting a little queasy. This was something certainly we've been talking about for a period of time, and we decided to pull the trigger. And we did it today, and we're happy about it. I didn't know it would have that kind of an impact, but it's, you know, I think they have the biggest increase in the history of the stock market. That's pretty good. That's pretty, you're almost, you know, if you keep going, you're going to be back to where it was 4 weeks ago.
Jim Van Dy, the president, getting ready for Masters weekend by employing that famous golfing term, the yips, is what you say about somebody standing over a putt that doesn't know how to get it in the hole, but said that things were getting a little yippy. That included also, of course, the bond markets, where a real concern, that's when Scott Bessent and others went to the president saying this could go sideways very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, like, he panicked. It's probably the first time we've seen him blink in such a public way. He was under a lot of pressure from GOP senators, a lot of CEOs, a lot of investors, Elon Musk. People calling him saying, listen, look, not just the bond market, look at the regular market, look at the bond market, look at the dollar, that a real economic collapse was in the offing. And he saw that and he hit pause. And then you had his entire team come out and say, no, this was like part of the art of the deal. And I don't think anyone's buying that. Certainly a lot of people internally aren't buying it. They underestimated the effect that it would have on the markets. And now, yes, the market surged, but if you talk to CEOs, there's still so much unpredictability. You basically replaced the largest, maybe the largest trade war of generations with another, maybe the second largest trade war, which is us versus China, which might be a bigger deal, and it's now escalated, which still creates a hell of a lot of uncertainty for CEOs and businesses who are trying to plan on, do they invest in people? Do they invest in buildings? What is their supply chain going to look like? And that uncertainty is going to continue to hover over the economy. And I think that is the pickle that the president is in right now. Somehow he has to figure out a way to thread that needle where he can get what he wants in terms of getting more fairness in trade between us and most of those nations, but also send a signal to these businesses and to the markets that there's going to be stability, that there's going to be a new regulatory environment, a new tax environment, and a trade environment that you can trust enough to make those investments.
Yeah, and the stock markets did come roaring back yesterday, John, but not yet even to the point where they were just 8 days ago when all this started. So let's talk about how he got to this place. We're seeing, if you go down the list of White House advisors, if you look at the Commerce Secretary, they're all saying this was a brilliant move. This was the art of the deal. The White House spokesperson, they're all citing his book from the 80s. But what really happened here? Obviously, he was watching the markets tank, telling people to be cool, hang tough, all of those posts before hitting the pause button yesterday. How did he get to that 90-day pause?
He blinked. Let's put it clearly. Yeah, I wrote on this for today as well. Taking us behind the scenes here, this is obviously days worth of unhappiness. We've seen the markets collapse since his so-called Liberation Day of last week. He was hearing from Republicans at the end of last week, over the weekend, privately concerned, saying, look, this is a problem. Market situations are talking about it. We're seeing 401ks disappear. We're seeing the stock market vanish. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who was largely out of the mix last week, reasserted himself over the weekend, spent time with Trump on Sunday, made the case, let's make this targeted. Not going to go public with criticisms, not saying do away with the tariffs entirely, but let's be a little smarter about these. And then the president, I am told by people close to him, over the last couple of days, saw a bunch of Republican senators on cable news shows, Senator Kennedy among them yesterday, did some media appearances, including here on Morning Joe, that he saw the concern. And more than anything, it was indeed the bond market. Some of his closest economic advisors saying this is the difference between potentially a recession and a depression. And Trump didn't want to own that. So I'm told yesterday, his team is trying to spin this as a win. Both inside and outside the White House, his biggest supporters saying this is the art of the deal, or look how clever it is that we've isolated China down the road. And there is certainly an appetite for taking on China, although there are going to be repercussions of that as well, Joe. But this was not the plan. This was he had to cave because of these external pressures. There were some dissent within his team that pushed him there as well. And then they're trying to spin this as a victory when it was really a retreat.
You know, Zanny, we were talking yesterday morning when we talked with Senator Kennedy. I'm not talking economics here. I'm just talking pure politics. And when Senator Kennedy and I were talking, I said, much easier to justify a trade war against China, a trade war against your biggest nemesis, a trade war that actually CEOs will say have had unfair trade practices, unfair practices for his valuation. But it's interesting. Line that up for us, if you will. If it's not a multi-front trade war, if it's the United States versus China, obviously that's going to cause some distress in the U.S. markets. At the same time, China, after 5 years of, I will just say, mishandling his economy, we don't know how what great position she's in to have a sustained trade war with the United States right now. Take us through what that looks like.
So I agree with you that politically this is much easier. You focus the trade war on China, and as you say, China has not been the best actor in the global economy in the last few years. So this is easier politically, but let's not underestimate economically still what a mess this is. Yes, the broad reciprocal tariffs have been walked back, but the 10% across the board tariff is still there. And they've only been walked back for 90 days. So there's still an enormous amount of uncertainty for everybody else in the world, because there's still this kind of contradiction really at the heart of the president's strategy, which is, does he want the jobs to come back to the U.S.? Because if he does, the tariffs have to stay in place. Or is this a negotiation and he's willing to negotiate for much lower tariffs? But vis-a-vis China, which you're right is now the absolute kind of center of this, I think we have a really big problem, which is we have two strong guys, neither of which wants to back down. And I was in China a couple of weeks ago, and the Chinese have been preparing for this for years. They may not have expected quite the scale and speed with which this has become a full-on trade war with 125% tariffs. But they are ready for this, and they are in no mood right now to back down. And so practically, it's very, very difficult for Xi Jinping to lose face. He cannot lose face. So for the moment, I think quite how they unwind this becomes hard. Of course, China exports more to the U.S. than vice versa, so China is going to be hit harder by the tariffs. But China also has a lot of tools it can use. It needs to move its economy more towards domestic consumption. It's prepared to use those tools. And quite a lot of people I spoke to in Beijing actually saw this as it would be tough for China, but it would be an opportunity for China, both to improve its economy and also, frankly, to benefit from this kind of what's perceived as crazy action from the U.S.
You have state-owned media in China this morning calling Donald Trump's tariffs tyranny and saying that they need to fight back against them. Let's